Show starts in 5 minutes.
We're happy to have you with us this evening and want you to enjoy every minute of your stay here. And while you relax and stretch, visit our concession where you'll find something to please you. There are ice-cold drinks, delicious sandwiches, ice cream, coffee and snacks, and many other pleasing treats. Our foods are fresh and tasty, our drinks satisfying and refreshing. They're so good.
You get more out of life when you go out to a movie.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your UK correspondent for Dave Darren's Midnight and the Deserted, the only irreverent and irrelevant talk show going, the best one. Well, I bring you greetings from California Gourmet Grills and Pizza, one of my favourite hangouts here, and we're going to have a quick little word from the owner and proprietor, Alex, over here. Now, Alex, I've been a regular customer of yours for how long?
So many years since we opened, 3 years
And
now.
where do I travel from to come here even?
All over the place, Scotland, Northern Ireland, everywhere.
Absolutely, and the only reason I keep coming back is because it is bona fide, genuine food. Now, we're going to give a special offer to all the Dave Darren and Midnight in the Deserted listeners and family. Basically, Al, what are we offering as a discount for pickup here?
About 20%.
20% discount on any pizzas, grills and burgers if you are willing to come and pick it up yourself from here, and we're offering a 15% discount on deliveries, yeah?
That's right.
And that's only for the month of January. This is a very special offer that I've worked out from my friend here, Alex, for all the listeners of Midnight in the Deserted. Please tune in for more offers and some wonderful, irreverent, irrelevant and fun talk. Going out from me, Omar Asvi, your UK correspondent, signing out for Dave Darren, Midnight in the Deserted.
Well, feeling real down as if I didn't have a friend. There's time to look around me and wonder why I have to pretend. Each year goes by, I find myself a little bit older. Drinking water from the same little spring, you feel it's the end. I just wanna hear my songs on the radio, playing them loud like in the studio. Think of what I could do if I had just one song. I just wanna hear my songs on the radio. I just wanna hear my songs on the radio, playing them loud like in the studio. Think of what I could do if I had just one song. I just wanna hear my songs on the radio. Just wanna hear my songs on the radio. Playing them loud like in the studio. Think of what I could do if I had just one song. I just wanna hear my songs on the radio. Songs. I just wanna hear my songs on the radio.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. It is Thursday night. We're ready to rock and roll, coming up on a weekend soon. I know you guys are all waiting for that, like I am. We got a couple guests tonight, a little bit of different format. I'm going to try something different, a little experimentation. We have Bernadette coming on for the first half hour. Then we're going to have Bernadette and Steve coming on. They're going to talk together for about a half an hour. And then at the end of that, we're going to have Steve come on, so he's going to be a solo. So, but along with all of this, if any of you guys have a phone call you want to make to 480-236-2111 and ask Bernadette some questions, or ask Bernadette and Steve together some questions, or hang on and ask Steve questions, and I'll monitor the chat as well as I can do as well. So I'm going to bring Bernadette in here right now. We're not going to delay. Bernadette, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. So Bernadette is going to tell us about paranormal experiences. Now, when I first talked to Bernadette, we titled it Paranormal Stories. But you know what I want to make sure that this show really starts to focus on, what we have seen, what we've experienced. So paranormal, I renamed it to Paranormal Experiences because that's what we're going to talk about. So Bernadette, tell us, what part of the country are you in, by the way?
I'm from close to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay, a lot of experiences there. I lived in Philadelphia. We had a lot of experiences between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers. We had a lot of experiences. So, a lot of a lot of bodies dragged in the back of Cadillacs and buried in the Schuylkill River. So a lot of that stuff going on. But tell me about paranormal experiences. Now, have you been someone who's experienced some things that have been deemed to you to be paranormal, and what were they?
I've had things throughout my lifetime paranormal.
Uh-huh.
And I could sit here for hours and hours and tell you things, but I have one story that happened probably maybe 28 years ago, if you'd like to hear it.
Sure.
I've worked in I've worked in a nursing home my whole life, so you could imagine I have a lot of stories.
Uh-huh.
But when I first started, I'm in nursing, and when you come into work in the mornings, you get a report of your patients that you have for the day. When I was coming in on day shift, and they gave me a report. They tell me a little bit about each patient that I have. And after that, I walked down the hall, and I had my 8 patients. And every time I get there, I would just look in the rooms to make sure they're okay, make sure nothing's going on. So I look in the room, and I see a little lady sitting in the bed, laying down in the bed. And she said, hello, and I said, hi, morning. And I turned back around, and I walked right up the hall, maybe 30 feet. And I said to the nurse, how come you didn't tell me about the new lady? And she said, what new lady? I said, the new lady in 38A. She said, there's no new lady in 38A. And I said, don't tell me there's no lady in 30. I just left. I'm standing in the hall. I turn around, and the room's right there. And, she's in there. They said, you're crazy. I said, come on, I'm not fooling around with you guys. I go down there. I go in the room, and the bed is made perfect. Bedspread. You could have bounced a quarter off of that bed. And they just looked at me, and I said, I'm telling you, somebody was in this bed. And they said, you're crazy. I said, I'm not crazy. And secondly, I'm not going in there. I'm not going back in that room. There was somebody in there, snug as a bug, in the bed, under a comforter, blanket and all. So we went, and we did everything. I made sure everybody checked all the doors and this, and checked the rooms, because I knew somebody was in there. And I said, I'm not going back in there. I don't have to go in there, and I'm not going in there. And they said, you have to. And I said, no, I don't. I said, I can go home. I'm not crazy. I'll leave. And I ended up trading with somebody else. Somebody took, I took a couple patients for somebody, and somebody took that room. And I said, I don't know what you people are going to do, because I'm not going in there, and you need to get yourself a priest or a nun or something and go bless the room. I don't know what to tell you. So morning got to be about morning time. Well, I came in the morning, but it was light out. So I happened to be walking down the hall, because I'm still on the same hall with different rooms. And I glance over to that room, And honest to God, there's a priest and a nun, both of them, outside, with their holy water, you call it whatever you want, splashing it at the windows. So I went outside. I went out the main door, and I looked at them, and I said, you know what? You guys are coming in the room, too, aren't you? I know you're blessing the outside of the building, but are you coming in? And they said, yeah, and they blessed it. And I to this day, I sleep with my light on. I don't, I'm not fooling around with stuff like that. They came and blessed it.
Wow. Now, did they come and bless it for any particular reason, or they took what you said seriously and they decided
They took what I said seriously.
Oh, okay. Because I was wondering if they had seen anything, or maybe the person you swapped with had seen anything. So then they called to say, the first person that said this, Bernadette, was for real. So yeah. How about that? But they did come, and they came, and so the hospital took that story seriously, and so did the people on the floor. So they had a priest come, and what'd you say, a nun also as well came?
Yeah, both of them.
Wow.
There was a nun and a priest, and they had their little, I don't know what they have that they splash the holy water with, but they did it. They did it on the outside and the inside of the room.
Wow. How about that? Yeah.
I will never forget that, and they knew I was serious. They knew I wasn't joking, and I wouldn't have came back. And I didn't go in that room for a long time, actually.
Huh. So now, any other stories from like other nurses that you've worked with who have been on that floor or that approximate vicinity? Did they mention anything unusual to you? Did they come like a year later, 2 years later? I have no idea how long you worked there, but any stories from them to tell you about? Did anything come up? Because essentially when it happened at that particular moment, sometimes people are hesitant to say anything, but they might come back to you in 6 months and say, you know what? I got to tell you, I saw something as well. I never told you about it, but you came out and told us all about it. Anything like that come up after your experience?
For that room, not that I can remember, but of course, when you work in a nursing home, you hear all kind of stories.
How about another one?
Yeah.
How about another one that you were involved in this same hospital? I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was there for 30 years. I had a lady, which is, well, you can call it her imagination or whatever. I don't know. But I was walking past the patient's room, and I seen her struggling to get out of her room in a wheelchair. She's pushing it, and I back up, and I said to her, what's the matter? She said, don't you see him? I said, see who? She said, the man in black. He just came out of my closet. And I said, no, I don't see no man in black. She said, well, get out of my road. I'm getting out. So I stop her. And I say, you know what? I said, you go back to that closet, and you tell him I said to get back in there. She said, I'm not going over there. You tell him. I said, I'm not telling him. I didn't see him. You do. Go tell him what I said. So I turned her little wheelchair around, and I said, you go. And she went over to her closet, and she said, did you hear her? She said to get back in the closet.
Huh.
And I waited a while, and she turned around, and I said, did he go back in? She said, yeah. I said, good, and tell him not to come back till I leave at 3 o'clock because I don't want to see him.
Yeah.
She always seen him.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Now, was she a woman that was still fully aware of her senses, or was she a little bit on the borderline, or how would you describe her?
She was aware of her senses, but if people have something wrong, maybe UTI or something, they talk. They don't make sense.
Right.
But she had a look of horror, and I was just like, go back and tell him to get out.
Right. So now this is a home for elderly people, right? Is where you worked, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And any experiences, because we always hear about like afterlife, and we hear about like someone dies and their spirit leaves the body, and like recently, I've had some relatives die. I've been fortunate that most of my relatives haven't died, and I haven't been with them at that moment of death, except for our animals that have passed away. And we always have a little feeling that someone is around, especially immediately after they immediately die, and then we sometimes feel their presence around us and amongst us. So when you work in a home like that, I'm sure over your 30 years, you've had a lot of people that have passed away because they're coming in there at a senior age to begin with. So a lot of people have passed away, I'm assuming. That's obviously correct, right?
Yes.
Now, do you stay away from some of those people because immediately at the time of their death, it's not appropriate to go in that room in case their spirit hasn't left their room? Any fear from you to not do that?
After 30 years, no.
Really? Okay. So
you get strong. I don't want to say cold, but you get strong and you deal with whatever comes your way. But I've never seen a spirit leave the body or anything like that. Those were two experiences there that were, if it doesn't happen to you, it's hard for you to believe. I understand that, but it has happened to me. So I have no choice but to believe there's something paranormal or something that we don't know, that we don't know yet.
Okay, so let's get into that story, because I want to know, now you're obviously a believer. You were initially somewhat skeptical or very skeptical, but whatever it was. What brought you over the limit, over that line, to cross into believability rather than skeptibility? What event?
Because I've had a lot of strange things have happened. Maybe, say, premonitions and strange dreams that have significant meanings. And I've been to psychic and mediums, things like that. And I just question how these things happen. There's more to it than we just don't know. I really don't know. If somebody could call in and say, "Hey, Bernadette, this is the answer, to what happened," I'd be more than glad to take it. It proved me wrong that there's nothing paranormal. If you have a logical explanation, okay, I'll take it. But there are some things that have happened in my life that I can't shake for you. Nobody's given me a good enough explanation to say that's not paranormal.
Yeah, and we've all had premonitions, and some of them are pretty vivid. For instance, once in a while, I will live a day, and something will happen during that day, and I will swear to it that I lived that moment in time sometime previously. I can't usually identify when, but I remember that event that took place either happened in the past, or I knew it was going to happen at this particular moment. And I could almost read what was going to happen within the next second. You probably have had that too. A lot of people have had that, right?
I have one in particular that I can't shake, and I've told this story 1,000 times, and I will continue to tell it. I had a dream that I ran into, I was driving, and I passed a friend of mine in the car, and she flipped me the finger, okay, in my dream. And I woke up and I said, boy, that's weird. Maybe I'll run into her, or maybe I'll hear from her or something. I don't know. Somebody I didn't really talk to a lot. And I'm not kidding you. 2 weeks later, I'm driving, not on the same road in my dream, but close to my house. And sure enough, if I didn't pass that girl, and she flipped me the finger. Now, with that being said, that's just not coincidental to me. That was too specific for it to be coincidental.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just can't shake that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of weird things. Here's a coincidence that happened. I was in, I'll tell you the story about my wife, and I'll try to make it as brief as possible. But my wife, we used to live in Philadelphia. Now we live in Arizona. But my wife had a really close friend who lived in Philadelphia, and she moved to Detroit, Michigan. God forbid she moved to Detroit, Michigan, but that's where she moved to. So my wife didn't talk to her for quite a while, maybe like a year. They talked once, I guess they talked more frequently than that. But about 2 years after this woman had moved to Detroit, Michigan, my wife called her up and said, oh, guess what? I'm going to go to Japan. And this woman, her name was Della. She said, "Oh, I'm going to Japan too. When are you leaving?" My wife told her the day that she was leaving, and the woman said, "I'm leaving." That's a coincidence. I'm leaving the same day. And then my wife asked her, "Well, what airline are you taking?" And she was taking a different airline than my wife, but the connector, I think it landed in Colorado. And the connector flight of Della going to Colorado and my wife going from Philadelphia to Colorado for her change of planes, they actually were booked on the exact same plane out of Colorado going over to Japan. It was amazing. It was, and that is a shocking thing. What's the likelihood of two people flying the same day and connecting on the same connector flight in a different city that they didn't plan? I think that's pretty amazing to happen.
Now, do you think that's coincidental?
You know, I don't know. I've thought about it a lot, and I've had a couple other things similar. I'll tell you my experience. I was going from Philadelphia again, and I took Amtrak to go to North Carolina. And I had planned the whole thing out because when I got to North Carolina, I was going to be late. So I needed to call up a taxi. So I had the taxi all planned. This is before Uber. So I had a taxi all planned. So when I got off the train in North Carolina off of Amtrak, I'd have the taxi there. So I got off the train. I'm looking for the taxi. The taxi's not around. I called up on the phone of the taxi company. And if you can believe this or not, this was a shock. The taxi driver said he wasn't going to come. And I thought, what the heck is this? They're not going to come? So then the guy in baggage, because they do have baggage in the train stations as well, especially Amtrak, guy heard me on the phone and he heard that I was upset. And I go over to him and he says, "Well, you know what? I have a friend of mine who he is a taxi driver and he'll probably pick you up. Give him a call. Here's the phone number." And he asked me where I came from. I said, "Philadelphia." And he said, "Oh, I lived in Philadelphia for quite a while." And I said, "Oh, well, I live in Philadelphia now." And I said, and I was talking to him about, I picked up Amtrak near the 30th Street train station. Actually, at the 30th Street train station is where I picked it up. And he said, "Oh, I know that area real well. I used to work at the post office." And I said, "Wow, that's something else." I said, "My uncle used to work at the post office at 30th Street station." He said, I worked there for many years. What's his name?" I gave him my uncle's name. And he said, "Oh, he was my boss and he was my supervisor for all these years in Philadelphia." So that was a rare thing to happen as well. So these little coincidences happen about every 5 years. Something as freaky as this will occur in my life. So I kind of am not sure if it's still an amazing coincidence, but it's an amazing couple of events that took place in my life.
That's what I mean. Some things I just can't shake off as coincidence. If I'd have seen her and talked to her, I'd have said, okay. Even if she'd have waved at me driving past, I would have said, okay.
Yeah.
But it was too specific for me so I don't know. So I think, what is this life about? I mean, is there parallel universes? I don't know, but something happened there. Somebody could say, "Oh, I don't believe you," and that's fine. But I know it happened. So I know there's something that we just don't know, and whether we ever will, I don't know. Maybe 100 years from now, they may have an explanation for things like this. But it happened to me, and I can't say, that it didn't.
Uh-huh. Well, are you close to some of the people that you're closer with? Like, for instance, my wife and I are pretty close. We talk every night. We've been married a long time, and we still talk a lot at night. But there's a couple things that we have experienced together. And sometimes my wife will say stuff like, this has happened to me before. And the thing with the plane was unusual. And her and I, like sometimes when I'm driving in New Jersey and my wife happens to still be in Phoenix, she will know where I am sometimes. And I'm not as tuned in to knowing where she is all the time. But she'll kind of know. She'll call me on the phone and she'll say, let me guess, you were at Parks Casino, which is a horse race casino in Pennsylvania. And she said, "I think you were there last weekend, weren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "How did you know that?" Because I don't have an app on my phone. I do now. But back then I didn't have an app that tracks me so I can have a stalker, which would be my wife. But she kind of knew I was there. And I didn't use a credit card or anything like that at a gas station close for her to realize that. So these little things of people's connection, especially when they're very close, seem to be more in inclusive. They seem to know what's going on with each other's lives just by some inspiration, or I don't know what it is. Do you have that? Do you have that feeling when you're closer to someone, or you just have a feeling like this with random people?
No, these are just it's just random. And I don't tell, I really don't tell my stories because my family are just say, okay, you're a little fruity or whatever. I'm not fruity. I'm a normal human being, like everybody else. I didn't ask for these things to happen to me, in my lifetime, but they have. I can't say I've been abducted by aliens, and I can't tell you that I believe it because I've never actually been abducted, nor do I want to, by the way, But, I can't say I believe that. Right. Now, I don't know, but I still don't know. Right. And I don't want to make fun because my luck, I'll get up tonight and there'll be a little green man at the bottom of my bed, and I don't want that. I don't ask for those things.
Yeah. Do you believe in an afterlife? What do you think happens to us when we die? Do you have any idea? And I'm not asking for a religious, dissertation, but what do you think happens to us? Do we live on? Do our spirits live on? What do you think about that?
I think we do. And I think a lot of it, and I don't know where this is coming from, I think a lot of it has to do with quantum physics, with parallel universes. I've had so many dreams of people that pass away, and there's something else. There's just something else. Mm-hmm. I don't know what. I went away one time. I was going away for the weekend out of state, and I left on a Friday, and I came back on a Sunday. But that Friday night, wherever I was, I dreamt of a lady. I had a dream that she had died. And in my dream, I didn't see her die. I seen a spirit, say something white, going through an old house. It was an old Victorian house, I can tell you. And I woke up and I said to myself, boy, that'd be weird that, she died Friday night. Mm-hmm. And I came home Sunday and got the newspaper and was reading it. And sure enough, if she didn't die that Friday night, she passed away. Things like that. There's something. Yeah. There's something. What it is, I don't know if we'll ever know.
Well, that's a particularly frightening coincidence or thing that took place. I won't say coincidence because that one is really unusual. Maybe your family. Yeah. Maybe your family doesn't want to acknowledge that with you because maybe your family is either scared of your premonition capabilities or maybe they've experienced stuff as well. And they're just scared of it, and they kind of block it out intentionally because they don't want to deal with it. That's possible. I want if you tell people these stories like you're telling me now, and the listeners, I wonder how many people would rather not hear about this stuff because they're scared about people that are connected to paranormal experiences. For instance, if I knew my wife was strongly paranormal and was able to really delve into that and had an amazing amount of these stories taking place, or actually let's call them experiences because that's what they are, I wonder if I would be scared of that. And by the way, Japanese people are very superstitious. That same girl Della I was telling you about who moved to Detroit, Michigan, she would actually do things. She would have a reading. I don't know who she went to, but it was almost like she couldn't fly. I remember this, she had to fly to Japan every 4 months for some reason. She was told she had to fly to Japan every single 4 months. And she wasn't told by a psychic reader who had stock in an airline or anything like that, but she was told that and she believed in that. So Japanese people are very suspicious and actually scared about people that have a lot of paranormal experiences. So are anyone in your family kind of scared or reluctant to talk to you? As soon as you start talking about this, they want to back off and not hear it?
My oldest son, he listens to me and he kind of is interested, but I don't tell any. I don't tell my friends. I don't tell, my family. I'll tell Nicholas, and that's because he's more, has my kind of personality, but he doesn't have those experiences, mm-hmm. Nobody but me. And I don't know why. I don't ask for them. I don't want them. I don't know if I'm a portal hole to, I don't know. like I said, I'm a normal everyday person. I don't ask for these things. You know, I had a dream. I also had a dream one time that my mother and my father were in the hospital at the same time. And in my dream, I dreamt that my father died. And me and my mother were there, and we were crying. I felt the pain that you would feel when somebody, you know, passes away.
Right.
And many months after that, my dad, who never goes in the hospital, he ends up in the hospital. And the next day, off goes my mother, and she goes in the hospital. And I revert back to, I said, oh my God, my dad's going to die. You know, this is kind of weird. To have two parents in the hospital at the same time in my life, you know, doesn't happen. And sure enough, my father passed away, and my mom and I were there with him. But, you know, that's just weird. That's just maybe with somebody preparing me for that, you know. I don't know. I mean, really, that's why I question the paranormal. That's why I question things, because these things have actually happened to me. I don't make them up, you know.
Well, have you ever gone anyone and tried to tune in your capabilities and get more deep into it and understand it and maybe be able to control it? Or does that make you scared to be able to do that? And you'd rather it just be totally random and you don't want to focus on understanding it or making it happen more often because you'd rather not. How about that?
Oh, no, I don't focus on it. I don't want anybody to come see me in the dream or I don't focus on any of that. If they come to see me, I have no reason why. You know, they're just things that happen, and I accept them. I haven't had any lately, really, and I don't want it, and I don't want any. You know what I mean? I don't want it to happen to me, but I do believe there's something else.
Yeah.
Somebody, you know, I don't know. You know, like I said, if anybody listening has an explanation, you know, call in and give it to me. You know, tell me, what do you think it is?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I know they do say that matter never completely dies, and you cannot uncreate what's created. So when we die, and I'm not a religious type of person, but I'm hoping that there is something beyond us living on this planet in 2020. And by the way, Happy New Year. But we're living here now. When we die, are we completely gone? Was it a total waste of us being here? If we had nothing that we left behind, hopefully I've left behind some radio shows that my wife can play if I die earlier than her. But you know, when we get out of this planet Earth, hopefully there's something that remains, spiritual or energy, and maybe that's maybe that is what happens. Our energy goes up to the stratosphere or wherever it goes, and then eventually maybe it's like rain. The spirit, the energy's got to come back somewhere. So maybe it lands on Earth, maybe it lands somewhere else. Who knows? And then when it lands somewhere else, then another being exists of us again, recreated sometime later, and maybe there's residuals that are still within us from where we were before. Maybe that's a possibility, and maybe other people can talk about that. But you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to call up Steve and Bernadette, by the way, stay on the line. I'll tell you what we're going to talk to about Steve. You talked about abductions. That's what we're going to talk to Steve about, because he's got some stories about abductions between himself and his gentleman named Travis, and they did a film called Fire in the Sky, and we're going to talk to Steve about that particular film about abductions. And Bernadette, I'd like you to stay on and maybe ask the guy some questions, all right? We're going to get you both on the same show. Okay? Okay, so hang on. Let me add a call and get him in here. I'm getting another call from somebody else, but it's not the person I'm supposed to be calling. So it's probably some kind of telemarketer. So how do I hang up on this guy? Okay, he hung up already. I hope. Okay, so now I'm going to dial in our buddy Steve. So hang on, guys, while I grab him in here. Maybe this is him. I don't know. Hang on a second. Hello?
I
Hi, Dave. It's Terry.
Oh, Terry. Hey, how are you? Okay, so I'll get you.
Good.
Good.
I wanted to talk to Bernadette, but if you've got the Steve coming on, is that his name? The gentleman, Steve?
Yeah, that's his name. But okay, so let me get you in here, Steve. I'll call Steve in about 5 or 6 minutes. So come on, I'll let you.
Okay.
Okay, so let me.
I have a good one.
Okay, so
I have a pretty good one, I think, anyway.
Okay, Bernadette. By the way, before we get Steve on, here's Terry. So Terry had something to talk to you
Yes,
about.
hi, Bernadette. I was looking forward to you coming on. You were terrific. Yes. Let me turn down my television, Dave.
Okay.
I'm hearing the three of us together. There we go. Bernadette, that was terrific what you were talking about. I have a great one about after my mother passed. I was so close with her. I just can't believe it. But when I talk, I used to frown. You know how people frown. And my mother would take her hand when she was alive, of course, and put it on my forehead and say, "Don't do that, Terry. You don't want to get wrinkles." And so after she passed, sitting in my bedroom all by myself at my desk, and all of a sudden I frowned and I felt her hand. And it didn't scare me. It didn't do anything. And I must have felt her hand. It had to be 50 times. And finally I stopped frowning. And I don't have a wrinkle on my face. And I'm 64. But and here's another good one. Here's a good one. I was bent over in the laundry room. And I was crying. This was probably a year after my mom died. And her nightgown, there was one nightgown I just would not get rid of, and it was hanging up. And I felt someone tapping on my shoulder. And at first it took me back, you know. Is everybody there?
Oh, yeah, we're still here. Yeah, we're still here.
Okay, I wasn't sure, you're so quiet. And I'm bent over, and I felt my mother tapping on my shoulder. It had to be my mother. There was no one in the basement with me. I don't know who else would do it. And periodically, when I would be really down, and I had a terrible time, for 5 years I pretended she didn't even die. I didn't even say, "Oh yeah, my mother's dead." But, you know, she was dead. But that would happen to me. When I finally did face it, those kind of things stopped. But now I feel my mother around me now. But she's not touching me. But I thought those were good stories. I don't know if anyone else likes them. But they're true. They really happen.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so
yeah.
So let me get. I did tell Steve I was going to give him a call, and I want Bernadette to be able to talk to Steve. So let me get him in here. And Terry,
you want me to hang up?
I think I can take 4 people on. So why don't you hang on, Terry? And
Okay.
let me see if
I want to talk to Steve too.
Okay, so hang on.
I know all about this case.
Okay, so let me see if I can conference call all of you guys in. So hang on for a second.
If you can't, I'll hang up.
No, I think you might be okay.
Okay.
Okay, let me see. I'm going to dial him now. It's the first time I've tried to do a 4-way conversation like this, but let's see if it all works. Supposedly it'll work. Let's see. Hello, Steve.
Hey.
Hey, how's it going? So let me bring you into our full conversation here. So I have Steve on the line. Steve, how's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Hey, pretty good. So we have Steve. We're going to talk to Steve about some interesting stuff about the movie Fire in the Sky and Travis Walton. But Steve, I'd like to welcome to the show. You have Bernadette on here as well as Terry. So a couple of people
Hi, Steve.
A couple of people might be ready to ask you questions. So first of all, Steve, tell me a little bit about you. Give us a little bio, little introduction about who Steve is, why he's on the show today. So give us that first of all.
Well, I'm Steve Pierce. I was with Travis Walton the night he got zapped by a UFO. I was one of the witnesses that were there when it happened.
Okay, now first of all, so what does zapped mean? What does so I've had someone come on before and they said that they were zapped. And first of all, we want clarity. We want to know what they're zapped with, who zapped them. Tell us about that. The word zapped, what does that mean?
Well, I was working for the forest department and was on our way home, and there was 7 of us in a 2-seated pickup truck, and we got coming out of the woods, and we seen this bright object over to the right, and we couldn't tell what it was, and so we got a little bit closer, and this thing just hovering in the air. It's not moving, and Travis, he gets out of the truck and starts walking sideways towards it, straight up towards it to the side, and he stops and gives a weird look back and stands up, and I thought he was turning around to come back, and this bluish green light came out. Well, the first thing was just hovering there. It's not moving, not making no noise or nothing. All of a sudden it started going beep, 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 beep. And when Travis stood up, this bluish green light came out and zapped him and knocked him back about 15, 20 feet. That's what I mean by when they zapped him.
Now, there was a movie about this, right? Or what was this? Fire in the Sky. Tell us about that. There was a movie that... Tell us, what is that, Fire in the Sky?
It's about what happens to Travis. In '92, I was in the truck stop, and it was middle of the night, and or maybe it was '93. But anyway, I got fuel, and I was heading to Louisiana, and I was in Barstow, California, and I wanted to pay for the fuel, and I went to the restroom. I came back out to the TV room to see if anybody was going to drive for the rest of the night, and there was Travis Walton on HBO talking about the movie Fire in the Sky, and that's how I knew they made a movie. And then I didn't actually see the movie until about 2009, 2010.
Uh-huh. Now, by the way, this movie that was made called Fire in the Sky. Now, we see a lot of movies. We see a lot of stuff on TV, some of it like The X-Files or some of these things. And they kind of fabricate a little bit or sometimes a lot, or sometimes they say it's based on reality. There was a show, and I think Terry knows the show, it's called One Step Beyond, which are supposed to be true stories, and they get on TV. This show was like black and white, so it was like during the time of the Twilight Zone. But so how do we really know that what Travis saw or what you saw, how do we know, like you're experiencing this, and this was not that long ago, so weren't there... So how did you see this? Or how do you tell people that are skeptical like me that even though there was a movie that is based upon reality, how do you convince us?
Well, we passed a polygraph test. I mean, Travis was missing those days. They thought we killed him, and they made us take a polygraph test, and we all passed it except one person. Alan Dallas didn't pass it because he wouldn't take it because they kept asking him, if he killed Travis, and he ripped the stuff off of him and wouldn't take it. But then a few years later, when they made the movie, he took a polygraph test from the same guy that they gave us the polygraph test, and he passed it.
Now, in the polygraph test, did they ask you first of all, they were asking you initially if you killed Travis because he was missing. But then, how about some of the stories about, the alien being zapped and all that? Was that part of the polygraph test where you were asked that question? And then when you answered...
The question they asked is if we actually saw a UFO.
Right, and what did you answer? You answered yes, correct?
Yes, and we passed it, yeah.
And you passed that. Now, did they, if for instance, if you were here right now and I had a polygraph, I would start off by asking you that question, but then I would go into more detail to find out what you saw, how, did it hover for? I would start asking you a lot more questions than just that one.
Well, you got to remember this was the '70s, and they weren't interested in the UFO. They thought it was a lie. They were more interested in who killed Travis.
Huh. Okay. So then the movie was based upon whose experiences were in the movie? It was Travis for the most part, right?
Yeah, but what?
Fabricated most of it.
Yeah, was it fabricated?
If you watch Paranormal Witness on the Sci-Fi Channel,
Right.
It's season 2, episode 9. That's the best one. That is pretty much all accurate on that one.
I saw that one. That was a good one, yes.
Okay, well, so it's interesting, Steve, because there was a movie, there was a polygraph test with one question. Was only one question was that they were more interested in where Travis was, if he was murdered. So we
were in there 2 hours apiece. They had me strapped up to that thing for about 2 hours.
But as soon as you started with the UFO thing, they kind of weren't interested. They blew it off, and it was just kind of one glancing question, and after that, they didn't go into any detail beyond that, correct?
No, they just asked us if we saw a UFO. They were mostly after, who killed Travis.
Okay, now you didn't see the UFO. You saw Travis getting zapped, and you saw the.
I saw the UFO. I saw everything.
You saw the craft, and you saw that. And how far away was it? How far away was this craft?
About 40 feet.
About 40 feet. Was it a large vehicle? Was it any sound illuminating from it? Tell us about what you physically saw. Steve, you still there?
Yeah, it was like 2 cake pans on top of each other, but it was solid white. And you could see like window frames coming down from it, and then one going across the middle of it. It was really bright white.
Huh. And now Travis approached it, but you did not. Is that correct?
No, I didn't approach it.
Okay, who else was with you guys? It was just the two of you guys, or was there more people than that? I'm sorry, I might have missed that if you answered it already.
There were 7 of us in a pickup truck.
7 of you guys. So there was one guy who was the Rambo, and there were 6 guys who were not Rambo and stayed in the car, right?
I don't remember no Rambos. Do you know the story, dude?
No, you know what? It's funny because I do a show like this, and I try not to research more because I want to get you guys on to tell us, and I want to be interested in it as well. So I don't do a whole lot of research. I didn't even watch the movie. I want you to tell us about it more than me knowing it already and ask the wrong question. So there's all you guys in a truck. Travis walks towards the vehicle that you see from 40 feet away, and he gets zapped, and then he's missing for a while. But then
5 days.
5 days. But you 6 guys in the truck, once he's missing, what are you guys doing for that 6 days? Aren't you curious about what happened? What happened to you guys during that 5-day period?
Well, a bunch of people came all over the world, so they was news reporters, Air Force, you name it. People were up there. That place, you couldn't even find a motel room. It was so packed. So I mostly hid for 5 days.
Okay, so I'm a little bit confused here because that 5 days there was missing Travis. You were questioned by the police as to where he was, where his body was if he was murdered, who murdered him potentially, and you guys, all of you guys, were all questioned. I would imagine you guys were all questioned, all 6 of you guys. And did all 6 of you guys talk about
the night that it happened, when we came out of the woods, was in Heber, and we called the cops, and the cops showed up, and they went back and looked for him that night, and some of us went home, and then the next morning they got one of the biggest posses together, in Arizona looking for this guy, and I snuck out the back door because I figured they were going to find a dead body, so I hid all day while they were out there looking for him.
Okay. And then they didn't find him for that 5 days, but then you said a lot of people came from, I think you said from all over the world. Is that what you said?
Yep.
Okay, and they came from all over the world for what reason? To look for Travis, a missing person, they would not come from all over the world. They came because of the alien story.
They came to see a UFO, I guess.
Right, but if they came to see a UFO, what enticed people from coming around the world to talk about a UFO, and the only question asked by the police was one question: did you see a UFO? And the answer was yes. But how did it escalate from one question and then no more questions asked by the police to a whole world coming to understand? How did you get the whole world involved from such a one question type of story? How did that happen?
I don't know. I don't know how it happened, but it happened.
Huh.
Maybe the newspapers.
Yeah, but you would think that newspapers would have probably come on more on target about where is Travis? Was he murdered?
Yes, you're right, Dave. Yeah.
Yeah, but
everybody thought he was dead.
Everyone thought he was dead.
Someone killed him.
Yeah.
Someone killed him.
It wasn't a what do you call flying saucer. It was one of you men, correct?
You what?
Steve, they didn't think it was a flying saucer at all. They thought it was one of you men.
Yeah, they thought. Yeah, they thought John Goulet or Alan Dallas killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is funny, Dave. That the whole world would be coming to see about a man that was murdered, and not about a flying saucer.
Yeah.
I don't think they came for the murder. I think they came for the UFO.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh. And now when Travis came back, and then we're going to bring Bernadette, and Bernadette may have some questions as well. Bernadette, you're still there, right? Are you still online?
I'm here.
Okay, so I got to ask you this: when Travis came out of the woodwork, wherever he was, did he just appear to you guys, or did he appear in public to everybody, or how did he reappear and re-enter the? Now he's no longer lost and no longer dead. How did he come back to us?
He called his brother at a phone booth in Eber, and he told his brother who he was. And at first, I don't think his brother believed him, but eventually, he said a couple things on him, and his brother would know. So his brother came and got him, and they took him to Phoenix to his brother's house. But everybody else, we all thought he was in Tucson. I didn't know he was back until that night. And everybody thought he was in Tucson in the hospital. And but actually he wasn't. But Gillespie, the cop, knew, because when he made the phone call back in those days, you had to get an operator, to connect you, and the operator heard the conversation and then called the cops and told the cops.
Huh. Sounds more and more like Charlie Sheen on a drunken binge with a bunch of hookers going for 5 days. I don't know.
You what?
I said this sounds like a Charlie Sheen or 2.5 Men story with Charlie Sheen hooking up with hookers and getting drunk for 5 days and suddenly reappearing. I don't know. But so now when he came back, then how do they do a movie with this guy? Why do they bring even the name Travis into this movie? Because I'm not getting a whole lot of UFO stuff here out of this. Why would they do a movie about Travis? Was it so did Travis tell a fascinating story? Was he extremely interesting? How did this all happen?
How would I know? I didn't even know the movie was being made. I told you I didn't know about it until I was in a truck stop. Yeah,
how about that? Okay. All right. So after that, no other paranormal or UFO experiences with yourself? Probably by that point you didn't want to be around Travis anymore. Thought he was bad luck because everyone thought maybe you murdered him. So did you keep hanging around with Travis after this, or what?
No. We parted ways. We all did for a long time.
Uh-huh. How about nowadays? You ever talk to these guys anymore? They still alive, some of them, or?
Yeah, some of them are still alive. A couple of them are dead.
Uh-huh.
Me and John Gillette stay in touch. We're good friends.
Uh-huh. Huh. Now, you ever get together and, reminisce about what you saw? Because obviously you guys were not abducted. You guys weren't zapped. It's just Travis was zapped. But you ever guys get together and talk about this situation, watch the movie that you didn't see until later, and talk about that, or what's the scoop with that?
No, I don't watch the movie.
Yeah. Okay. Huh. Bernadette, any questions for our caller here, Steve?
I may have missed it, but Steve, when he went missing, did you go look for him? Did you guys like search for him or anything?
Yeah. The next day they had a posse out there looking for him, but I didn't go. The cops were at my front door talking to my mom, and I snuck out the back door because I figured, how are you going to run from 100 cops when they're going to find a body? Because I figured he was dead.
So, but did you tell the police that, well, I saw Travis was zapped? So that's what happened to him. Did you tell the police that you saw Travis being zapped?
Yeah, I told the cops that.
And what was the reaction from the police?
They didn't believe us.
Yeah, and now
just like you.
I'm just trying to. I'm open-minded, by the way, so I'm just asking questions. I'm not trying to be judgmental.
Steve, David, somebody who asks questions, like he said, he doesn't do research into the past, into your story. He lets you tell your story.
Yeah.
So he's not a disbeliever.
Yeah. What's
sure?
What now? When you disappeared, Steve, and the other 5 guys, I guess it's 5 guys at that point. So you disappeared because you were terrified that they would actually find a body, and a body that would have been killed not by you guys, but from an alien. But of course, they're not going to believe you because at that point, the alien would have left, and how could you find the alien to prove that? But the other 5 guys, did you talk to them afterwards, and did they all vanish, or did some of them hang around and the police were multiply questioning them? What took place with the other guys during that 5-day period?
We all hung around for the first 5 or 6 days until Travis got back because they wouldn't let us go anywhere. And
no, but you did.
After Travis,
You did though. You escaped. You said you ran out the back door and you escaped for a day, right?
Yeah, you couldn't leave town.
Or you tried.
We couldn't go anywhere.
Right.
They couldn't arrest us because they tried to arrest us when we took the polygraph test, and we would have flunked the polygraph test. We never would have left, the sheriff, but since we passed it, they couldn't hold us. They couldn't hold us the 5 days that he was missing because they had no evidence the crime was even committed.
Right. But one guy didn't take the polygraph test. Didn't you say that? One guy did not.
Yeah.
Now
he took it off because they kept asking if he killed Travis.
Right. Now what happened to that guy? He didn't take the polygraph test. So was he more suspected? And did they hold him?
They thought Alan killed him, so they were going after Alice pretty hard, asking him if he killed Travis or not. So he ripped the stuff off and wouldn't take a test. But he did pass it. He did pass it. He did take one and pass it.
Afterwards, right? Okay.
We've all passed it. There's not one of us that can't pass a polygraph test.
It must have been terrifying. It had to have been terrifying because you had no proof. You didn't know where he went to, and you couldn't find him. No one could find him. Of course, they would accuse you guys of murder, but then you passed the polygraph. Dave, this is unbelievable, this whole story. This is a true, what do you call it, abduction, I think.
Now, was Travis questioned? Did he do that test when he got back, and did they ask him about, like, what had happened?
I can't tell you what Travis actually did because I saw Travis maybe a month or so after that. He told us what happened, and then I seen him once or twice after that. And then after Philip Class offered me that $10,000 to say it was a hoax, I kind of disappeared out of the limelight for a long time. And then I moved to Texas, and the guy kept following me everywhere I went. And then I just completely disappeared. I went to driving truck and went cross country and stayed out there.
Well, when Travis came back, Bernadette asked, and you just said that he told you some stuff. What did he tell you about that night? Did he tell you I was abducted? Did he tell you he was zapped and then he He doesn't know what happened. What did he tell you took place when he came back? What did he tell you?
Okay, he can remember probably about 15, 20 minutes of the whole thing. They put him into another craft, and they laid him on a table, and there was 3 of them. They were grays. And they put him on a table, and he got kind of nervous, scared, so he jumps up and he grabs this glass tube. He thought it was glass, and he tried to break it, and it wouldn't break, so he started swinging at him. And they went down the hallway, and the hallway forked out, and they went one way, and he went another. And then he was inside this room. There was a chair in the middle of it where you could see the stars. I guess it was the pilot's room. And then a few seconds later, some guy in an astronaut suit, you know, that looked like us, came and took him by the hand and took him into his ship, and that's all he can remember.
Huh. Okay. Maybe we'll have to watch the movie. What Mary Adams says here, Fire in the Sky, is a favorite movie of mine. So here we go with Mary, who's seen this movie. So it's a favorite movie of Mary's, and I'll have to watch it. Maybe I should have watched it before tonight's interview. But I wanted to just get you on without me being polluted by watching.
If you're going to watch something, watch Paranormal Witness. That's an hour long.
You're right. He's right there. Paranormal Witness.
Okay.
Watch the Sci-Fi Channel. It's Paranormal Witness on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Didn't you have an episode or season, an episode?
Yeah, we're all in it.
Yes, but do you know what episode that was?
Yeah, it's season 2, episode 9.
Okay.
Season 2, episode 9. Okay.
Okay, season 2, episode number 9. I'll have to watch that and check it out.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think I saw it though. But I believe Travis's story. I heard him on Art Bell. And Art Bell had him on for, I think, 4 hours.
Really?
Sparky or John may know about this. John may even know the movie. I never saw the movie. I saw Paranormal Witness.
Uh-huh.
And I heard the interview I did. But if John would call in, he probably would know better.
Yeah, John knows a lot of stuff about movies. That's right. But do you know, Steve, if when the movie starts, does it say based upon a true life story? Does it say anything like that, or it's just a movie that runs and we don't really know?
What, Fire in the Sky?
Yeah. Did they say true life story, or maybe you don't know since you can't remember? I'm not sure.
It says it's based on a true story.
Okay.
Yeah, but Travis said that's not. Well, it's not the way it happened.
Yeah,
it's not the way it happened. But they can buy something and still say it's based on a true story and change what they want. They do it Hollywood does it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
They did it with Whitley Strieber's story too. He was an abductee.
Yep. All right, well, Steve, I guess anything else on that? Do you want to talk about anything that's happened since that event? I don't think you said you've seen any UFOs since. Anything? Maybe you don't want to. I don't know.
Have you?
Have you?
Have you?
Huh?
You're kind of laughing. Have you seen any UFOs?
I see them once in a while.
Once in a while, so with some frequency. So what, do you see anything as close as 40 feet from you? Because this event was 40 feet away from you, so we're very, very close. So anything as close as that?
No, nothing's been as close as that.
Uh-huh. Huh. Wow.
If you close your eyes...
I seen one. Go ahead. I close my eyes, what?
If you close your eyes right now, could you picture what happened? Just have it. Yeah, I bet you could. Yeah?
Yeah.
God bless
you. It was
according to Travis, well, not Travis, but I've seen other...
when Travis got hit and zapped and hit the ground, I said they got him. As soon as I said they got him, Mike took off.
Mm-hmm.
Mike was the one that was driving.
Oh, I see. Oh, really? Well, his story was a little different. Yeah. Yeah, he became a hero who said we have to go back and see if Travis is alive.
Who's that, Mike?
Well, whomever was driving the truck at the time, yes.
It wasn't Mike. It was, see, that's another thing that's wrong with the movie. It wasn't Mike. That wasn't Mike. They make Mike look like the hero in the movie, but that's all. None of that really happened. I would say the reason we went back was because of Katie Peterson and John Gillette. Kitty and John never really lost it, and it was their idea to go back. And Katie Peterson one is the one, in the movie it shows Mike calling the cops. It's not Mike; it's Kenny Peterson that calls the cops. Mike wouldn't call them.
Just let me ask Terry or Bernadette, if something like this, suppose you guys were out and there were like 5 girlfriends in the car, and Terry or Bernadette were driving or whatever, and suppose one of your friends was abducted by a spacecraft and you saw this took place. In 2020 right now, I'm just trying to think, if I was in a car with other guys and I saw this happen, I don't know what I would do, because if I go to the police and I tell them what I saw, there'd be such doubt that I would look guilty. They would probably look for the body and be suspicious of us. I guess they would be. So maybe I wouldn't. Yeah. Maybe I wouldn't tell the story to anybody. I would just go away, think that if Travis comes back, great. If he doesn't come back, then oh well. I don't know what I would do. I don't think I'd come out of it. That was
mine and Alan Dallas's idea, was not even call the cops.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think I wouldn't say a word. I guess I wouldn't.
I would take my baby May and I would come and live with Dave and his wife and Willie and their 2 cats.
Yeah.
That's what
Don't you think the police would have investigated? If you don't say anything, they're going to eventually investigate and say, "Oh, well, Dave, he was with Dave, the last time he was seen." Then you'd be in trouble. Then you'd look guilty, like you did kill him or something.
Yeah, you're right. That's right, because you're right. Travis is missing. Family is going to call up and they're going to say, "Hey, Travis, our son, has been missing for a day, 2 days." Then they start wondering where he was, and they start to ask, "Well, is anyone?" They would ask the parents, like, "Was he with friends?" And they would say, "Oh yeah, right. he was with Dave, or he was with Steve in this case." And then they would go to Steve and they'd say, "Where is he?" And then what would my answer be? I don't know what my answer would be.
Something? My friends are so criminal-minded, including myself. I would take off. And not say a word because I would be so afraid to go to jail.
Well, that's exactly what Steve did. That's what Steve did. Steve took off, right? That's what you did, Steve. That's what you did.
I would end up in jail probably for taking off. But my friends would say, "I'm going to hell with her. Let's just go."
I didn't take off. I hid.
Right. Well, you hid.
I have a question. Did any of you guys make any money off of any of this?
I haven't made any money off of this.
Travis and one of his friends did.
Yep.
The guy that offered you $10,000 to say it was a hoax, what did you tell him? Did you think about it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It just happened. So when he was calling me, it was, like 6 months old or something when he started calling me. And then when I moved to Texas, he found out my phone number back, in Texas. Back then they didn't have cell phones. And, I thought about it because Mike owes me money. He still does. And I was going to piss in their weeds. Huh?
I said, I'm sure you needed money. You were
$10,000 in the 70s is a lot of money.
Yes, that's what I mean. I may have taken it. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have needed it, but I would have taken it, I think.
No, I didn't take it because it really happened.
Yeah, no, it really happened. I believe you, Steve.
Yeah.
I would have believed you right from the beginning.
Well,
thank you.
If you took the $10,000, I wonder if that would have gotten you in trouble, because then it's a hoax. Like there was a hoax recently about, it wasn't that long ago, about some guy in a hot air balloon or something like that. And I remember something. I don't remember the whole story. In fact, I don't remember enough about it to even talk about it. But I remember those guys got in trouble for faking something that didn't take place. So if you took the 10 grand and said it was a hoax, I wonder if you would have gotten in trouble for that. You probably would have, right? I don't know. I can't really think about it.
I don't know. It was so long ago. I mean,
I would have think it'd be
it's just a story now.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
My story to me, I believe it. I believe that it truly happened.
I know it happened.
Yeah.
I know you know. But I want you to know, there's somebody out here who believes 100% what you guys said is true.
Now, I'm not real familiar with the story. I've heard of it. But did that ever happen again to him? I mean, does he get abducted, every so often, did he? I mean, was it a reoccurring? Did they keep it abducting him or taking him? I don't know.
No.
Oh, okay.
I guess once was enough.
Well, I think, Steve, you didn't talk to him for... Steve, you
no, we don't want him back. No, get him back.
Steve, I think you said you didn't really talk to him for a while after that, right? Didn't you say that?
Travis?
Yeah.
I went from probably around the 80s until about 2010.
Yes, that's a long
before
time.
I talked to him.
Yeah, that's a long time. So you really don't know. He could have been abducted through that course of that timeline, right? And maybe when you saw him.
Well, if he did, he's not talking about it.
Yeah, and he may not talk about it. I mean, depending on what happened, he might not talk about it.
Well, he did have. He did. We did a talk show together, and he did. Him and a couple of his friends that were together. They saw one together, so we still see them.
Huh. Wow. Well,
does the friend that you're close with, does he see them also?
You what?
You said you're close with one of the men still. Does he see these forces?
Yeah, he still sees them.
And you do too?
Yeah.
My goodness.
I mean, we don't see them every day.
I know. But still, even to see it one more time, it is something, not many people can say that. Not Steve. A lot of people can't claim what you're claiming, and anybody who knows the story, it's true. You took a damn lie detector test, and every one of you passed it.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll take a polygraph test anytime you want me to, as long as you pay for it.
Yeah, I believe you, honey. You wouldn't have to convince me twice.
Well, there's a little. Here's a little difference. Here's another reason I didn't watch the movie. Now, Terry watched the movie, and Terry is between Bernadette and myself. I don't want to put words in Bernadette's mouth or anything, but I'm skeptical. Maybe Bernadette's skeptical. Maybe Terry is not skeptical because she's watched the movie. But remember,
Well, I'm skeptical of the movie. I didn't see the movie.
Oh, you didn't see?
I heard Travis on the talk show, and I saw Paranormal Witness.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. The
Paranormal Witness.
The movie is fake. Travis said the movie is not what happened. So I never watched it for that reason.
Okay, interesting. All right, okay. One thing that's fascinating to me...
It is true.
One thing that's really...
Well, whatever. He said that 90% of it was fake.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay.
Like James Garner's part, he played the cop.
Mm-hmm.
He played like two different people in one, as one. So they mixed him in there. So and then as far as the when he's up in the UFO, up in space, and he's in that cone-looking thing. I don't know. You know what I mean?
No, I didn't see it.
That's not true. You know, us at the cafe is not true. We didn't go to no cafe. We went to a phone booth.
No, I saw that on a different program, on a television program, and it was a paranormal witness.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But according to Travis, once Hollywood bought the script, they could do what they want with it. So.
Right.
That's what Whitley said too. The same exact thing. Whitley Strieber. He's an abductee, and once Hollywood gets their hands on it, it becomes their property.
Yeah. So, you know, I guess there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
but Henry Thomas, the little boy that plays E.T., he plays my part in the movie.
Yeah.
Well. All right. Well, you know, the thing is, you know, you get a guy like me, and I haven't seen anything, and I said I'm honest enough to say that I'm skeptical, but I have an open mind. Well, one thing that always confused me, for instance, right now I have one of those little action cameras, because if I drive around in my car, and I've seen accidents close to my home, so every time I get in my vehicle, I put that camera on my dashboard, and as soon as I drive, I turn it on to record whatever takes place. Now, this took place a long time ago.
You live in Maricopa County?
Yeah, I do. Right, I do.
The worst county in the United States.
Well, why do you say? I'm not particularly proud of living here, but why do you say that? What's the reason for saying that?
Just is, I guess. I was raised in Maricopa County.
Okay, well, that's where I am now. I'm a suburb of Phoenix. I'm in the East Valley. But my point is, today in 2020, where everyone has all these digital devices on their cars, one of the reasons I'm skeptical is because anytime I see a video of someone that says they've seen a UFO, it's something that either looks like it's a light from so far away that you can't really make heads or tails out of it, or you see something that's a shooting of light across the screen, but you can do that with a camera with a slow motion lens and make it look like it's moving in an extreme. So I don't see anything that really convinces me yet. Now, I'm open-minded to note that I think that there's UFOs. I think that there are life on other planets, but I'm not convinced that they're here at the moment to have abducted like a Travis, unless I saw more evidence than a movie which I haven't seen.
Sometimes I think that what you see in the sky are UFOs. I think they're us. I think they're maybe modern or technology that we're not supposed to know about, and they don't want us to know about. Also.
Yeah.
I think didn't we talk about that one day?
I've never seen one, so I can't say, until I see it and then get abducted, I'm listening to you.
You want to be abducted?
I don't want to be. I'm not making fun because I don't want anybody to come and get me. But
a lot of people are that way. I got a couple of brothers that are that way. That, they believe we saw something, but they don't believe it was a UFO, and they've got to see it to believe it.
Right. I agree.
I understand that. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I've lived with this for 40. I've lived with this for 40 years. I've heard it all.
I bet you have.
But you can't call me a liar because I throw that polygraph test in your face.
I wouldn't call you a liar. I wouldn't, because I believe it. I believe anything. Travis's story.
That's anything paranormal. Unless you experience it, it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe anything.
I wonder if it would be different today if the police would, if this story happened today and you mentioned it was a UFO that you guys saw. I wonder if it would have been more questions than just the one question. The police, when they gave, the polygraph test isn't given by a police, I'm sure it's by a professional. But it was only one question related to UFOs. Today in 2020, I think that they would go a little bit more beyond and ask you more questions to try to see if this was a real story or something that was, because maybe on a polygraph, you can pass one question once, but then if they really delve into it, they can see if there's...
It's impossible for 5 people to pass the same polygraph test if they're all telling the truth. I mean, you can't do that. I mean...
Yeah. I guess that's true.
I know what you're saying, though, Dave. Because today they may say what color was the light? Green. What color green?
Yeah.
Deep green. And keep on going more into a question instead of just asking them one question.
Yeah, especially.
I may ask, how far up was it? 30 feet. Well, 30 feet from where you were in the truck, or 30 feet from where Travis was standing?
Well, set it up and I'll take it.
So that's the type of questions today they would go deeper into it like that.
But they didn't believe we saw a UFO. They believed we killed Travis.
Right.
So the only thing they asked us about the UFO is did we actually see a UFO?
Right.
I mean, I've got the paperwork. I mean, I've got copies of the polygraph test.
Now, by the way, you obviously passed the polygraph test to prove your innocence of killing Travis, right? Obviously, you passed that part as well.
I was one of the highest ones as far as the percentage goes.
Well, that's good. They must have thought you killed him and buried him someplace.
Yeah.
But then the polygraph said you were innocent.
Yep.
Right?
Even the guy that took the polygraph test, he said, I don't know what they saw, but they saw something.
Yeah. Oh, we did? Yeah, I remember that. I do remember hearing that, yes.
Yeah. By the way, we have John here who mentioned that he's got a comment here. He says, from what Travis said in the interview, the UFO was taking soil and plant samples. He stepped into the beam and possibly was killed. I guess and possibly was killed. So here's a situation that could have occurred. Travis could have been there, seeing them take the samples of soil and plants, stepped into this beam, was killed, and perhaps the body would have been on the ground. This could have been worse than this. The body could have been on the ground, dead, with the 5 of you guys still in the car. Then the body would have been found dead. You could have been in a worst case situation if Travis was killed by this beam of light. It could have gotten worse. You guys kind of lucked out, maybe. You probably lucked out.
Well, they told me a city cop named Flake, he hassled me all that week, and he told me one day that says, we don't need a body to convict you guys for murder. And if you know who did it and you're not saying nothing, you're just as guilty as they are.
Right.
Now, when Travis was found or whatever, did the investigation stop, or did they investigate what he was saying, what he was telling them? Is it like over? Yeah.
Well, after he came back, the cops thought it was a hoax.
Okay.
So they were trying to, find out if it was a hoax or not, and that's when Gillespie, the sheriff at the time, the operator heard Travis talking to his brother, and then that's when Gillespie, they called the cops, told Gillespie, he's back, and Gillespie went down to Phoenix looking for him, and after that, everybody thought it was a joke.
Okay.
Yeah, but the police wouldn't have found it was a joke if they had spent. You said investigators came from a long distance away, right? You said worldwide they came, but that's when they thought it was a UFO story. But if it was a hoax and all of this media was there and the police were involved looking for the body for 5 days, they spent money, resources. They wouldn't take a hoax that funny. At least in 2020, they wouldn't. They would have had a large police force. Maybe dogs out there, canines looking for the body.
No, the cops didn't think it was funny. The people, nobody thought it was funny. People didn't believe us anymore. They thought it was a joke.
Right.
The people in the town thought it was a joke.
Y'all just came back. They thought it was a joke. Yes. Well, it sounds like a joke, doesn't it? Really?
Did you ever stop?
And Gillespie never. Yeah, Gillespie never took it as a joke. He tried till the day he died to try to figure out, what really happened. He thought we got one over him.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah. Bernadette, you were going to say something. I'm sorry. What were you going to say, Bernadette?
Did you ever stop to think that maybe he did play a hoax, but on you guys? No?
Who, Travis?
Yeah. Travis or his brother, Or did you think that maybe they were screwing around with you? You know what I mean?
I've thought about that a million times. No. The light, this thing it was real. It was in the air. You know, it was there. I don't know if, I wasn't there when Travis was, on the UFO or nothing. I wasn't there, so I can't testify to that, but I can testify that, what we saw, was real. There was a UFO there.
Wow. Okay. Well, anything else for Steve? This was an interesting story. I'm gonna have to think about this one, and dwell on it, and think about what I feel.
Do you ever dream about it, Steve? I mean,
I used to have nightmares over it.
Nightmares, huh? But
now nothing bothers me.
After that, nothing bothers you.
Nothing scares me. I haven't been scared since I walked out of that polygraph test. I was more scared the day I took the polygraph test than I did when I saw Travis get zapped.
Even though you knew you didn't do anything, when they say we're going to polygraph you, you become frightened.
Well,
you can't protect yourself. If they say you didn't pass it.
Well, we thought it was going to be fixed, that we were going to come up guilty.
Mm-hmm.
So that day was the most scariest day of my life.
I bet it was. Yeah.
Wow. How's the activity now? You're still in Phoenix. You're not in Maricopa County, but you're around the area. Is that correct? You're somewhat close to here, or where are you located now, Steve? You're in Alabama.
I haven't lived in Arizona in 30 years, man.
Right, now you're in Alabama, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, I live in Alabama.
Yeah, so with the time that you lived here in Phoenix, I hear about the Phoenix Lights and Maricopa County being a hot spot for aliens. I don't know. I don't go out there looking and doing research. Maybe I should. Maybe I'll find something
Maybe
out there.
You should.
Yeah. Is there anything...
You could be two people there, and one can see it and one won't. So, they want you to see them.
Yep.
They want you to see them, you'll see them. They don't want you to see them, you're not going to see them.
So they could isolate it in a party of 10 people. They could isolate who they want to see that craft. I could be there with 9 other people, and I'd be the only one that would see it. Huh.
Yep.
How about that? I wonder how they do that.
There's a Dr. Carla Turner whose husband saw a UFO, and nobody else in the whole town saw the UFO but this man. And yeah, can you imagine that? So they can do that to people. I believe Carla Turner too. She's another one, I believe. She's a good one.
And that maybe the UFOs do that intentionally, because if there's a group of 10 people, 9 people don't see anything and one person sees it, that makes that one person a lunatic, because the other 9 people right around him never saw it. How could that happen, right?
Imagine if there's 10 people there, at least a couple of them will see it.
Well, maybe not. Maybe what they're doing is they're somehow tapping into the mind, and the mind is being closed out by seeing them. Maybe it's nothing connected to the ship. Maybe they have control of our minds, where that they open up their viewing portal.
I believe this was mind control, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Right, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I believe this was all mind controlled.
Huh. Wow. Well, fascinating story. It's I'll have to watch the movie, because I've never seen the movie. I'll have to watch that episode, or season 2, episode 9 of Paranormal Witness.
Season 2, episode 9.
Yep, that's right. I scribbled it down. That's the one we'll have to watch.
Yeah.
Yep. Wow. So, interesting story, Steve. So, you don't have any nightmares now. You kind of got over the nightmarish part of this, correct?
Yeah, I don't have nightmares.
Yeah, that's
nothing really bothers me anymore.
Yeah. Do you ever go up outside and just decide, you know what, tonight's the night I'm going to go out there stargazing and try to see a UFO? You ever do that? Or you're fearful?
No, I see them if I want to see them. I just go out and look for one. I don't look for them, but, they pop up every once in a while.
Yeah, I remember you said that. They do pop up once in a while. If a craft ever landed or was 40 feet away, do you think now you're going to be like Travis and you're going to approach it? Or do you think now as soon as you see it, you're just going to run the other way? What do you think your response will be? If you're 40 feet away from a craft, what are you going to do?
Now?
Yeah, now. What would you do now?
I would go up to it.
Huh. Wow. Okay. Well, Steve, let me let you guys go because right now I'm getting a call from my folks and it's like the third time they called, so hopefully they haven't been abducted by aliens. But let me get out of here and take the phone call with them guys, okay?
Oh, you want me to hang up and you can get the call?
Yeah, if you guys want to stay on for a second, you guys can, I'll tell you what, why don't you guys ask each other questions and take over for me while I answer this call, okay?
Oh, you got to take a personal call.
Yeah, personal call from my folks just called. I want to make sure they're okay because my dad's 87.
Yes, okay. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, but you guys, I'll tell you what, why don't you guys fill in, take over for me.
Can I ask Bernadette some questions?
Yeah, go ahead, go for it. Take over for me, ladies.
Okay, Bernadette?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you, when did you start having paranormal things happen to you?
I always have. Probably throughout my life, when I was a teenager, maybe.
Even when you were a teenager? Is that when they started?
Yeah, little things here and there, and nothing triggers them.
Nothing. How often?
Lately, I haven't had very many, but I have a lot of dreams. I dream of people that pass away and they die and they come and talk to me, and I don't want that, but they do.
So it kind of comes in your dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh my gosh. So you're never free of it. You don't know if it's going to happen physically in front of you or in your dreams.
Right.
Well, that's frightening. I mean, and how often does it happen?
Not late, if I can't remember them lately. But I have them.
As we get older, Bernadette, let's face it, it's harder to remember anything.
Why they come see me, I have no clue. None.
Well, because you're open to it, I think. I think most of our group would agree that we're all kind of open to it. We're open to it. That's all. I consider myself as sensitive. I'm not like you. I have not had the kind of experiences you have had. But I bet, there are folks out there who haven't called in yet.
That's what I like to hear. Everyday people with experience.
I love to hear it too, Bernadette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not tell Dave what a jerk he is.
Yeah,
we'll just say.
I'm back.
Only kid like you, Dave.
That's okay. My folks are okay. They just called to see if I got a present for our dog Willie from my folks. So I'm glad you guys took over for me. Anything come up? What were you guys discussing behind my back?
No, we were talking about Bernadette's experiences because she's had them for so long, Dave.
Yeah, that's
When she
fascinating.
was a teenager.
Yeah. So you know what, Bernadette, you should come back on the show and we'll do more with you because yeah, let's have you back on. And let's say thanks to Steve. And I've got to watch the movie. We're going to watch the episode.
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thanks so much, Steve. And we'll talk about it. So let's hang up and then I'll close the show out. But thanks, guys, so much for joining.
Okay, guys. Bye.
Okay.
Good night, Dave. Good night,
Good night,
Bernadette.
Everybody. Good night.
Steve.
All righty.
Okay, guys, so that's the end of tonight's show. We had Steve on talking about his the movie. What was it called again? I scribbled it down here. Fire in the Sky. You guys should check that out. And some of you have seen it, and you've seen it, but remember the story was kind of taken and constructed to the way Hollywood wanted to present it, so it's a more entertaining story. So it's not the real thing that took place. We heard from Steve. We heard from Bernadette. We'll have to have Bernadette come on again to talk about more of her paranormal experiences. I appreciate all you guys, Terry, for calling in. It was great to have you on as well and have Bernadette continue on with Steve as he was our guest today. So thanks very much for you guys for coming on. And I think I have something else going on next week. I do have, I'll tell you what's coming on. We're going to have John Carvel's going to come on next week. And we're going to talk about, with him, blue light over Queens. So here we go. Blue light over Queens, some kind of an alien thing that was seen over in Queens. Let's see. I think his fiance, whether it be his fiance that he married, I didn't get that level of detail, but his fiance lives in Bayside, Queens. She claimed a portal opened up, so we're going to talk to him about what his fiance saw, a portal opening up, and she saw a mothership. So here we go. Here's another story close to what we talked about today. And we can all decide what we want to gather as factual, as evidence, as validation, and we can talk about it. More people should call up the show because obviously we need a variety of people to call up and tell us about what you've experienced. So let's make all that happen, guys, all right? So thanks for joining the show tonight, and I will see you guys next Thursday, and there'll be a movie night next Wednesday night, too. I've been doing these movie nights on Wednesday nights. So thanks, guys, and that's all we got for today. We'll talk to you next Thursday. Cheers.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your UK correspondent for Dave Darren's Midnight and the Deserted. I bring you greetings from California Gourmet Grills and Pizza, one of my favourite hangouts. We're going to give a special offer to all the Dave Darren and Midnight in the Deserted listeners. What are we offering as a discount for pickup here?
20%.
20% discount on any pizzas, grills and burgers if you are willing to come and pick it up yourself from here, and we're offering a 15% discount on deliveries, yeah?
That's right.
And that's only for the month of January. This is a very special offer that I've worked out from my friend here, Alex, for all the listeners of Midnight in the Deserted. Going out from me, Omar Asfi, your UK correspondent, signing out for Dave Darren, Midnight in the Deserted.
Just wanna hear my songs on the radio.